Hello, everyone. Welcome to IT Tech Talk. I'm your host, Joel Ward, and with me is Angie. Angie, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, Joel?
I'm good. And so you're calling us all the way from the UK today?
That's correct. Yeah.
Awesome.
hmm
You were like the fourth or fifth person I've interviewed from the UK. It's actually really cool. I love hearing from my people over in the London area. That's awesome.
hmm
Um, yeah. So Angie, I've gotten to talk to you here and there a little bit. But I haven't really gotten the chance to really get to know you, and neither have my listeners. So could you give my listeners and me a background about yourself, a little more detailed than what we've talked about?
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, I'm the host and creator of the Tour for the Shit podcast, and so it's a podcast around human nature, misfits, and relationships, and so it's interview based mainly, and I guess it's more. Like when you say like background, do you want to know like why the podcast exists, or do you sort of want to know something else? So,
No. What made you get into it? What made you start doing that? Because a little background about this. Like, why'd you get
yeah,
into the podcasting realm?
yeah. Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. So I've always loved the medium of audio. Absolutely, I love learning visually and auditory. And so I was, years ago, I was listening to a lot of like audiobooks, and then I eventually got into podcasts and listening to podcasts, and I really loved them. And for about a year or two before I started my own, I was flirting with the idea of starting one, but I just didn't know about what. So until I
Yeah.
knew what I wanted to talk about, I was like, I'm not starting this. And eventually the idea came by it was a Sunday morning. It was December 2018, and there's been a few things to the leading up to it. When we all go through like a bit of a shitty period, it's kind of like
Oh
that
yeah.
was happening. And so Sunday morning I woke up and I go to the bathroom to brush my teeth, and I look at myself in the mirror and I literally went like out loud. I went, I'm too old for this shit. And I live by myself, by the way. So the effect
Oh
of no
my.
one else but me, right? I'm the only one who heard that. And in that moment, I was like, that's it. That's what I want to do. Like, I want to do a podcast to help others learn the lessons I've learned after 40, but before that, like there was so many things that I was sort of finding out after 40 that I felt like, why did I not know this at 18? Like, why is no one else teaching this
Exactly.
stuff? And so that's how it started. And I put like a few, social media posts out, um, and asking for some guests, and that's kind of how I started. And I was just like, I want people to come on who've learned something, or like any experts. And it was all around like sex, dating, health, relationships, anyone
Yeah.
with an incredible story, like those who escape cults and stuff as well. So I wanted to
Oh
understand the
my.
dynamic of that. But yeah, so that's sort of like it's so I went on to this little investigation of getting answers, and I absolutely love it. It's been a lot of fun. Yeah.
So I actually was like you. I had a lot of people coaching me into doing podcasting, and I was like, no, I wanted to do it. Like, I really wanted to do podcasting. And I remember just one day sitting there, and I had like 8 people messaging me, like, because I was in a conversation. I was like, all right, I'm gonna do this. And I was like, what am I gonna do? I need to think of a name for the show. I need to do this. So I came up with this really crappy like logo for the show. I'm like, started the show. It was horrible audio. It was me just talking about tech. And then I was like, no, this is not what I want to do. And then this actually, if you actually get a chance to listen to my show, like actually go back to the very beginning and listen to it. It's awful. Like, I do not like it. But then I thought, no, I want to interview people. I want to go on and interview people. So jump ahead, I'm on my close to 70th episode almost, and I
Wow.
have started interviewing CEOs, influencers, YouTubers. I've interviewed some really high profile people, and it's really cool that I got to do it, but I'm kicking myself because I'm like, if I had done this sooner, I might have had a better foot in the door, if you would, a foot in the door where I could have gotten better guests. But I'm getting some great guests, and I've gotten connected with matchmaking. I think you're on there as well, and
Yeah.
it's great. And it's like I've helped other people overcome their fear. I'm like, look, if you want to start something, just do it. Like you
Yeah.
got to do it. Um,
And
and one of the things
it's okay to start messy though. You know,
it
you
is.
said like, oh, you wish you'd done it differently, but I think it's probably good because people can also see the curve that you've gone on. You know,
Yes,
the
yes,
arch. You
and you
know.
know what? It's phenomenal. I'm up to almost 800 listeners now. It's
It's
great.
good.
I love
Yeah.
it, but it's a
Yeah.
lot. It's a lot of work. And one
Yeah.
of the things I think you can attest to, and we'll talk more about this, is it's a lot of work because you got to edit your podcast. You got to edit the video, depending on if you're doing video as well. You gotta space some time out during your day to do this.
Yeah.
Especially if you're interviewing guests, you gotta make the time. You gotta set up the studio link. You gotta get your cameras and stuff ready. And for those who can't see, because I'm probably not gonna launch this video away, or at all. It's probably gonna be audio. In the background is a mess because I've had guests staying at my house, and so the guest room, which I'm using as a podcasting studio, is like a mess. So it's like it's all a mess in here, and so it's like, all this stuff, and like finding a space that's quiet. So let's talk about this, Angie. Let's talk about this. So you got your podcast started. How did you? For me, I bought a little webcam that I used as a mic just to start off as, and it was awful. And now I got this really nice mic you see in front of me, and these nice headphones which I use to listen to the feedback. But what did you use? Like how did you get started? What you basically started this podcast, but what did you use when you first got started? You didn't start off with professional gear. None of us really do, I don't
I do
think,
not.
unless you're really
I
rich.
still use this. I still use the same gear, and I didn't spend more than £100 on it, which will be the equivalent. I think is it $130 maybe in the
I
States,
think so. Yeah, I don't
depending
know the
on the day.
conversions.
Yeah, it's depending on the day. So it used to be like it would be the equivalent to $100, but it's like it's around that kind of
Okay.
number, right? So it's 100 pounds sterling. Yeah, no, I'm still using the same. I basically sort of like researched and got in touch with actually professional people in sound, and I said, to find out what equipment to get first, because I didn't have the budget to spend, and it's true, you could spend like over $1,000 on a mic, but then would you actually even know how to use it and how to set it up? And then you probably need something else to go with it. So there's a few things. So no, so I'm still using my Blue Snowball, and so that's so that was like under £50. So, that's really cheap. I'm still using it. And I have the scissor arms. So it's to have it, I guess I don't know how to explain it for those who are listening. It's also old-fashioned little table lamps have that same shape. It's
Yeah,
like
no,
it's a stand
I
for
know
the
what you're
mic.
talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, you say scissor arms as well. Okay, cool. So the scissor arms, so that you stop the sound from like banging on the table or movement on the table to to affect your microphone. And it came with a pop filter as well. And that was £17. That was really cheap. And then I use my own headphones that I have, and I can see you also use closed ones. So those are the best ones to use, closed headphones.
Yep.
And that's it. And then obviously I have speakers for when I listen back to it, for when I edit, because I don't like to wear headphones for too long. Like I feel like it's warm on my ear. So most people have already speakers at home. They usually have headphones. So the mic and the scissor arms and pip filter, that's what's that? That's £67. That's really cheap. And all the software I use is free. So
Now let me ask you. I want to ask you which software you use. This because you said software is free. Do you use Audacity like I use?
So I have an Apple, but I do recommend people to use Audacity or Reaper if they have PC. So I use GarageBand. It comes with It comes with Apple. It comes with your Mac. So I use GarageBand, but I also use so when I record remotely, like you and I are doing today, I use a different software. So I use Zoom, which is the free version as well.
Okay.
And the thing with Zoom is often it has a bit of a. Sometimes people can say, oh, it's not really for podcasting and stuff. It's true, it wasn't made for it. However, there's a lot of settings, and you can basically just have to tweak a few things and know what to enable or disable, and bam, it's just as good as the other ones. So Zoom, if you know how to use the settings, and then GarageBand for when I record, intro or solo casts, and also I use GarageBand as well to edit. And so people could then, if they don't have a Mac, they can use Audacity or Reaper. And that's it for the software. And I guess like for the other sort of outside the recording, like to schedule, like you and I, to schedule, like we can use like Acuity or Calendly software. The scheduling link is free.
I just
Email, Google
I just started
Calendar,
using
Outlook,
Calendly. Yep.
you know?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. So all of those are free. So honestly, like that doesn't come to £100. And so yeah, so that's all under that, and I'm still using it, and I will eventually upgrade to. I do want to get one of the Shure mics, but
Oh, those
that's
are
just
good.
yeah, but that will wait, and I'm happy to wait because it's all working fine so far. So yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, you can
No,
always
I
upgrade,
actually looked.
right, and delegate, but
Yeah, I looked at the Shure mics, and I got this as a 5-fin. I don't know if you heard of 5-fin, but it's got a really good pop filter. It's made for people who like to sing, and actually I like it because it's curved. It looks more techy. So I got that,
yeah,
and it was like $60 US dollar. Um,
see,
I don't know what the
yeah.
conversion would be in pounds. But
That would be
60
about the
bucks.
same as the one I bought, like about £50. Yeah, it'd probably be about
Okay,
fifty
yeah, yeah.
pounds.
Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but it's a great mic, and then I had these gaming headphones, and I bought new ones for my Xbox, and I use these. They plug right in the back of my mic, and they're just really good because they're noise canceling, so I can't hear anything around me, but I
Mm-hmm.
can hear exactly what you're saying. They're
Exactly.
great
Yeah.
for it. And you know what, I use Audacity. Like, I've been editing on Audacity. I had someone coach me on Audacity. Now for video editing, um with this program that I'm using that we're on today, I'm able to download the video as a file, and it's already edited, already ready to go, and I just pop it onto YouTube. Now, however, today we will not be putting this on YouTube. Actually, I haven't been doing YouTube for, so people who are listening who are frustrated with my YouTube like debacle, why things haven't been on YouTube. I'm working on fixing some things, so stay tuned for more YouTube videos. It will happen. It's not gonna happen right away, but no, Angie, I look, everything I have done since I started buying equipment. I got a new webcam, which is it's finicky right now. I don't know why, but I bought a new webcam. I bought this camera, which nobody can see. It's a Canon Rebel EOS D. And I got that 80D, and I got that so that I could use that as a webcam. And I'm trying to get more professional. I put soundproofing on either of the walls. I mean, it's a lot. Now I don't know where you're at. If you're in an apartment, or oh,
Mm-hmm.
you said you're in an apartment.
Yeah. No. It's like that's the thing. Is like if I've set up my mic. When I started off, I had the gain on my microphone was completely off because I didn't I was setting it like really amateur. I didn't really know
Yeah.
what to do. It was the position of it was so bad. Like I had it really in the wrong position compared to compared to the strength of my voice and all of that. But actually, where I am, it is really not conducive to recording because actually there is no doors. I mean, I live in a studio flat, right? So, and I
Okay.
have quite a lot of hard surfaces around me. But the minute, if you know how to do your settings, and if you know how to do so, with GarageBand, because it's originally like a music software, but there is a lot of great. They have like a lot of the same things like with Audacity and the others, I believe, to how to sort of just soften maybe some of the sound so it doesn't sound tinny, and also if you know how to do your gain so you don't do I've lost the word now, like don't have like all this distortion on
Hmm.
your track afterwards. So there are ways to do it. I don't think you have to. I think it's great if you can soundproof, if you have but because mine is a living space, if I start to soundproof it, it will look really depressing. So so yeah, I think you can definitely do a lot with very little, and then you can always upgrade. Like that's why I tell my participants. I always say you can always upgrade. I'm teaching you what to look for, how to do it, and then you can also delegate. But once you know how to do it or what to look for, you also know
Yeah.
how you want to invest your money, right? And what's worth your time and what isn't. And I think that's the bit that's quite empowering. Is once you
Hmm.
know, then you can make better decisions from there.
So, and I know you probably can attest this. I think I actually had an episode where we talked about making a podcast. And in that episode, I told my listeners that you don't need expensive gear. You
Mm-mm.
could start
Okay.
out with using your
Yeah.
phone on Anchor. I use Anchor FM for
Right.
uploading my stuff. Anchor FM, you can record all your stuff there and then upload it exactly straight to the servers, and which goes straight to Google and Apple and all that stuff. And you don't even need a fancy mic as long as you have a quiet room with like even like your headset that comes with your phone, like your iPhone or your Android that has like a mic in it, you're good to go. And
Mm-hmm.
you don't need a fancy, like you don't need to start off doing a video webcam. Actually, you can remote guest in like you said with Zoom and all the stuff. You don't need all this fancy gear. And one of the things I find frustrating is when I was getting into the podcasting space, one of the things that really put me off to it was people said, oh, you need to start off with fancy gear, you need to start off with all this stuff.
No.
And that's not how it
No.
works. You could start off with a $60 mic and really, pardon my French, a crappy webcam, and be fine. And you can start out so easily that way. And then when you build your following, you build some money, or you whatever you're doing, you save up and buy equipment, and then you have that equipment to do some with. That's what you do. You don't just start out. You don't just start out with a $300 to $1,000 mic
Mm.
and expect your podcast to take off. I started off with just using my phone, and then I started using a little webcam. And then I moved up and I was like, I'm going to buy a mic. And so I bought this $60 5-fin mic, which I recommend everybody because it's such a great mic and it has a great gain control, has a mute button right on the front. It's really good, and it's not expensive. Actually, I think I had a coupon on it, so I got some off of it. But you don't need to be in an expensive space just to start a podcast. Which
Mm.
I think you start out with just like, what do you say, 50 pounds, and that was it.
Yeah, I'm still using the same one. I'm still using the same one, and also I think listen, look, if someone has the money to spend, go for it, and if you know how to use it, do it. All the better to you. But it's I think like there is like a quite a famous rule of seven. Seven has got the number seven is quite symbolic across different things and cultures and things. But actually, within podcasting, there is actually a rule of seven is that a lot of people start a podcast, but they may not get past the seventh episode because
Yep.
it's not so much just the technical side of it and generating ideas, but it's also you putting yourself out there. There is something, there's a personal situation going on too, for some of us, doing this. And so I think until you try it, you don't know if you're gonna like it. It's like saying, oh, I'm gonna buy 3 tons of strawberry ice cream, but you've never had it. So how are you gonna know you're gonna like it? You're gonna use all that
Right.
space in your freezer. That's crazy, right? So it's like just try it out, and if you love it, then it was only 50 quid like for a microphone. You can always, that's fine, and you can upgrade if you've got the money to spend a few £100, then go for it after, no worries. But yeah, so I think it's that thing, you have to find out if you like it. And I know you talk about video. I don't do video podcast. I upload it on YouTube, but like, so that's even cheaper. If you just did audio podcast, you don't even need
Uh-huh.
to worry about editing the video and things like that. So there's many ways of doing this. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like how you said the rule of seven, because I
Mhm.
actually was just reading an article, because I get a lot of podcasting junk now. Like, it's all like I get tons of podcast stuff, and they were talking about the same thing you were just talking about, the rule of seven. It wasn't just so much the rule of seven; is that people get to the third or fourth or even seventh episode, and they quit because they didn't realize
Mhm.
how much work was to go into it,
Yeah, that's it.
and
Not many people don't go past the seven. So if you go past the
exactly.
seven, you've kind of reached a milestone that you can now start to invest and put a bit more into this.
When I hit my
Mhm.
50th, or was it 60? I can't remember, 50 or 60th episode. I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe I've just hit that many episodes. And
Yeah.
I'm continually pumping out episodes and pushing things. And it's like, it's a lot of work. I will say, and my wife, she puts up with it. She really puts up with it because it's a lot of time and energy
Yeah.
that I have to spend in my office, in the studio, in the guest room studio that we have, which is also my office, and setting up and getting the podcast ready, and then um, editing the show, and that takes a few minutes, and it could take an hour, which, you don't, if you don't understand this, and what people are listening to this, I want them to understand, podcasting is great. It's a great way to get your opinion out there. It's a great way to get your ideas out there. It's a great way to get what you are passionate about out there. But be warned, there is a disclosure or a disclaimer. It's gonna take some time. You're gonna have to put effort into it. That's why they say the rule 7. There is, I think I remember reading it. There's like 3 million podcasts out there in this world today. 3 million. Out of those 3 million, only half of those have really gone to completion. By that I mean only half of those have really went past their 4th or 7th episode. So it's like, that's a ridiculous amount of people doing podcasts, and they
But
haven't really continued.
in a way, it's quite good though. In a way, it's quite good, Joel, because that also means that the bar isn't. I mean, the bar is high, and at the same time, isn't really, because, like, you know, because 7 episodes is not a lot within the podcasting world, as you know. Like, but it's just
No, it's not.
It's just it seems to be that number that people go. That's if they don't, you know, if they don't want to do it, they're not going to go past the 7th. But it's like, but when you think about it, you know, I haven't checked those figures, but you know, that only half of those go through past 7 episodes. I didn't know that. But if that's what that means, then listen, the bar is pretty low, really. to you know what I mean? It's kind of like, it means that, you know, if you can actually go past 7, you know, and you've actually got something that you really want to talk about, and you have a burning idea, the space is there. The space is there, you know.
Yep. No, I totally agree with that. Now, over there in the UK, I don't know how things work. I've never been to the UK. I've always wanted to go. Do you guys have things like Google Podcasts? I know you have. If you have Apple, I'm sure you have Apple Podcasts. There's plenty of ways for you to listen over there. I'm sure you have Spotify.
Yeah. And there isn't. Is it the Google Play? It used to be called. There's one of the platforms that you can't. If you're not in the US, you can't be on it. But then if you have a VPN, then you know how to do it. You set up your account behind the VPN US wall, and then you get past it. We can. Yeah, we've got. When you're based in the UK, you can actually put your podcast everywhere. Really, there was only that one platform. You had to be based in the US, but I've got it everywhere. Like, you've got Stitcher. Whether people are listening to it as much in the UK than other places, that's different. But you can literally put yourself on all of those platforms.
Now, let me ask you, what platform are you using to push these out? Are you using Anchor FM, or what do you use?
No, so I self-host on my website. So I'm using Squarespace, and then I'm thinking of moving it maybe later on in the summer to an actual podcast host. Just because it's taking quite a bit of space at the moment, but I did that because I wanted to have like full control. At the time, I wasn't really seeing the advantage of going to a podcast hosting platform, but now there's a couple of those that I actually quite like, that I actually would like to move on to. So, you know, the 2 options that I usually tell people are Captivate or Spreaker. And Spreaker, that is if you want to have insert ads, like on YouTube. You know, when you see those ads pop up on YouTube, the creator of the video doesn't control those, but can still earn money from them, right? But you don't really control what ads you don't have as much control on it. It's also a bit more expensive than Captivate. Captivate, on the other hand, what is great is that it's actually run by podcasters, so they understand what's, you know, the needs on the ground, if you like. And also it's one price for all of the stuff, so you only pay more, I think, if you have really a lot of I can't remember now on top of my head, but there's a price difference, but I think that's more like once you get so big that there's so many downloads that, you know, it creates a different kind of bandwidth. But other than that, you have access to all of the features
that's
at the
awesome
same price, so that's quite good.
I tell people to use Anchor because Anchor's free. It's brought to you by Spotify. Anchor used to be its own company, and then it must have gotten bought by Spotify, because now it's
it got bought out.
part of Spotify. But no, I use Anchor, and that's what I started out with. And there's been a lot of people saying don't use Anchor because you don't own your content. And I
but
get that people.
That's for everywhere. I mean, it's not that you don't own your content. You do, but they can take it down at any moment. But that's
exactly
the same. That's the same with I'm hosting it on Squarespace. So if you breach any terms and conditions so I host it on Squarespace, which is basically a website provider, right? So I hosted there. If I breach the TNCs, then they will take it down. But this is why you keep a backup of all your content, right? You have to keep a double or triple backup of everything. And I will tell this to everybody.
I actually right above my head there is a file, and on a backup drive on my computer, that has every single episode I've ever done is on there. So
And
yeah,
back that
I
up
do
as
agree.
well. You need to have. I have two backups. Some people have more.
Yeah, I have this, and it
But
goes
yeah.
to my Google Drive. So my Google Drive is where I store the rest of it. I will say, if you do a podcast, which I agree with you on this, is you need to have backups.
Yeah.
Make sure you back up your files. Make sure you have stored all your content somewhere on a drive, on a Google Drive, on OneDrive, on Dropbox,
But also
somewhere
your
where you
show
have it.
notes, right? So not just the
I
audio file, but the show notes, the SEO, the hashtags, all the keywords that you use, because that is also a lot of work that you don't
mhm.
want to be. So you what, 70 episodes in, you said? So imagine
I'm
if
about
something
70
happened,
episodes in. Yeah.
right? So imagine like Uncle says, Joel, see you later. And then you have about, I think you have, most places you have about 48 hours to get your shit together, basically. I don't know, can I swear on your
Yep.
podcast? Because obviously, okay.
Yeah, you're
You have
fine. No, you're
48
fine.
hours to, yeah, you have 48 hours. So imagine you have the flu one day and the next day you're sort of recovering and then you see the email, it's too late. Like 48 hours is nothing. So you need to have it all there, but also all your notes that you use to describe the show, the title,
Mhm.
how you named it, the date it was released, so that you can then transfer it elsewhere. And make sure that you do a redirect, and that by law they can't, I think they cannot stop you from doing that, but you have to have a URL redirect, and it stays on, I think, for 3 months most places. And all that means is that it's for the RSS feed that you have for your podcast. So let's say if you have it on Anchor, and then let's say you move it to Captivate, people have to, your listeners are not supposed to know how to find you on Anchor or Captivate, but if you have a redirect, they can just keep using that same. So if they use like a podcatcher like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, it will automatically redirect Spotify, for example, to your new server, your new host. So those are things that are important to know. Those are the things I look out for, when I research for hosts, and that's why I recommend those two, like Captivate and Spreaker, because I've gone back and forth with them and all through all the loopholes, and to make sure that it's actually, if you're going to be investing money in something like that, that you actually do it somewhere that's going to respect your creativity and the work that you put into,
So
and that
I
includes when they
actually
kick you
was.
out.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's all
I
right.
was looking at your topics that you sent me, and I was reading about should everyone have a podcast, and that's a question I want to touch on. Should everyone just start a podcast? Like, is everyone able to start one, or it's set for certain people?
So is able is if okay. So there's two questions. So one is like, if is everyone able? Yes, I believe so. Should everyone? No. There's room for everybody, but should everyone? No. It's like saying everybody should be on Instagram, everybody should be on YouTube. I think it's really important that it should, that one, the platform of audio, because most podcasts are listened on audio. It's all audio. So it has to be a medium that you really love. You need to have a burning idea, but it needs to also resonate with you. This podcast, is this something you actually enjoy listening to? Because if it doesn't, look, maybe YouTube is better, maybe Instagram is better. What I would say about podcasts, which is really great, which is that podcasts and YouTube are both searchable by Google. So if you know how
Mm-hmm.
to write your show notes right, if you know how to do your SEO a little bit, it doesn't take, you don't have to be a genius. If you just know the basics, people can search a topic and find you through a podcast the same way that,
Mm-hmm.
slightly differently, but in the same idea that people find you on YouTube. You don't have to go and push it out all the time. People actually can come to you via a topic. So that's what I would say. Like, it's feasible for most people to have a podcast, but do you want? Do you have a better idea, and do you like audio? Because most people are going to be listening to it, they're not going to be watching it.
Exactly.
So you have to enjoy that medium.
I was just, while you were talking, I was typing in my show on Google, because you said people can search it, and my show popped up on iTunes, which I don't have. I have Windows, so I popped up on Apple, and I have all my stuff is on here, and I didn't realize, but I have a reviews on here, and I haven't, and
There
it
you
has
go.
4 ratings. It says a 5 out of 5 review on Apple, which is really cool, because I didn't know I was rated on YouTube or
There you
Apple.
go. There
And
you
I
go.
have a guy that says, this guy, I can't pronounce his name. It's a really weird name. It says, great guide info. Thanks, Joel. And I can't click. I wish I could click. I don't have a way of accessing it. But it looks like it, people who don't understand this, like one of the things that I said to myself, I was like, I'm going to start this show, and I'm going to start it with the idea that it's going to fail, and it could fail, and if it fails, then at least I tried. And that's one of the things I like to tell people is like, if you don't try and do something and you just talk about it and say it's going to succeed, even though you haven't done it yet, you're not going to succeed. If
Mm-hmm.
you do it and you know you've done it and it succeeds because you did it, then you can say, oh, it succeeded. If you're running your mouth and saying it's succeeding before you even started, it's not going to succeed. You gotta jump in and do it yourself, and then you'll know if it's going to fail or succeed or not.
Well, can I sort of like add to that a little bit?
No, go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, because obviously succeeding, like, depends what it is that people want to call succeeding, right? It's like it all look different for everyone, but it is really, I feel like, because it is quite a bit of work, and as much as I help and teach people how to do it, in a streamlined way, so it doesn't take all that time and all of that, and you can of course always delegate. But the thing is that it should all, I feel like it has to feel like that you so want to do it. I know, like, a lot of people want to, maybe they may think they become like the next Joe Rogan, but he's been at it for a very long time, and he also had a career previous and all of that, so it's a bit different. But I think is that you have to almost, like, if 5 people are listening to it, that's already an impact. You just have to, like, however many you have at the beginning, it doesn't matter, like, whoever is listening to it, like, those are the people that are actually taking the time out of the day to listen to you, whether it's an hour. I mean, that's something that we need to respect. And the thing is, just, you have to, that's why it's important that you really want to do this, because there are going to be ups and downs. There are going to be time where it's just like, where you're like, oh my god, I have to edit again. It's like, oh, you
Right?
don't want to do it, right? But the other thing, I just wanted quickly to circle back to something you were saying about when you searched yourself and you saw the Apple ratings, is that now you're based in the US, Joel, so the ratings
Yeah.
that you're seeing are US based. But if you have ratings around the world, you won't see it there unless you log into your account. So let's say people who listen to Joel, and let's say they listen to you on Apple Podcasts, they will see, and they're based in the UK, they may see 10 ratings, for example, right? And
Gotcha.
they may see 7 reviews. But let's say if someone else at the same time in the US look at you, they go, oh yeah, it's 5 ratings, because Apple Podcasts only lets you see where you are in the region, right? So that's why
Oh.
sometimes we see huge American podcasts that are like 0.01% of, like, at the top, you know what I mean? It's above the
Yeah.
1%. And they may not have as many rating reviews that you'd expect they'd have. And that's because we're looking at it, for example, from a country over in Europe, right?
Okay.
Which it may not be as popular as it is in the US, because US there's a lot of people out there too, right? You're a big country. So so those are things to keep in mind. So but if you log into your account, you'll see it. Or if you go to Chartable, do you know Chartable, Joel?
No, I don't know what
So
Chartable is.
Chartable is free, and on there you'll see the reviews, I think, in most countries. So you can see if you have Australia and things like that, and it will show the different reviews, and you can look at that.
Awesome. I got that pulled up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hey, we are on our time. So,
Mm-hmm.
is there anything I wanted to, real quick before we end this, is there any advice that you would give, tips or advice that you would give someone starting a podcast?
Yeah, I would say definitely, like, if it's what you want to do, you just have to do it. Absolutely. And I have, like, if you want, like, I also have, like, a free, I've got, like, free information on my website as well, which is learnpodcasting.online. And on there is, about all the equipment. And I'm also going to add something around concept. Like, if you want to know how to create and generate your concept, which you can use across different format. It's not just for podcasts. So yeah, definitely do it. And I would say actually, yeah, if I was to say one tip, is definitely just be aware that when you do a podcast, you're still actually liable by law. So just be careful with slandering. Just stay decent. If you name and shame, mocking Tony Robbins is one thing. It's not going to affect him. If you say, oh, he wakes up too early or whatever, if you like to poke at him. But you have to be careful.
Right.
It is all, it's legally binding. People don't realize that, but it is. So that's what I would say for that. Yeah, just be I guess most people are usually decent anyway. They're not out there to be going after people.
Awesome. No, I like that. I like that really much. All right, well, Angie, thank you so much for joining me. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. Angie, have a wonderful day, and thanks so much again for coming on the show. I look forward to having you on the future if you're interested.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
everybody, stay safe out there.
Thank you, Joe.